So someone asked me in the live I did last night, if Joseph Parker beats Daniel Dubois, what does that mean, necessarily speaking? Does it mean that Joseph Parker, he'll obviously be IBF champion, but what does that mean? What implications would that have for the heavyweight division? Now, Joseph Parker goes into this fight with Daniel Dubois as an underdog. Although saying that, judging by the amount of people who've been commenting on, videos, certainly on YouTube videos, I must run a poll, and I will probably do that poll at some point today or tomorrow in my community tab, because it seems that certainly with the way the general public have a way of looking at this fight, they see it as a foregone conclusion for Daniel Dubois. That would be, the majority would be casuals. But in terms of the hardcore audience, I'm seeing a lot of people say they're going with Joseph Parker to win this fight. So it seems for a lot of people it's a bit of a toss-up, just from the outside looking in. Now, I have Dubois favourite, and I think a lot of people do. And if Joseph Parker, listen, it would be, I wouldn't be picking, I'm not picking him to win. Would it be necessarily a monumental upset? Certainly not. Very good fighter is Joseph Parker. And crucially, Joseph Parker, a lot like Daniel Dubois, has had a very, very good run of form lately. And I'm not just talking about Zhilei Zhang and Deontay Wilder. He's fought the likes, I know Simon Keane and people like that, they're not anything to write home about, but the fact of the matter was he was active, and the activity is something that really did benefit him. Working more with Andy Lee, who is obviously been his main trainer for a couple of years now, we have seen marked improvements under Andy Lee in comparison to how Joseph Parker looked under Kevin Barry, where you always felt that he was really fighting within himself, that he had levels that he could go through. He was never achieving them under Kevin Barry. We're starting to see it now more so under Andy Lee. And you got to bear in mind, Joe Parker is only, 32, 33. He's not old. By heavyweight standards, he's not old in general. He's been around a long time, but he's not an old man in boxing years anyway. So it's not inconceivable that he wins this fight, certainly not. And if he was to beat Daniel Dubois, the question then is, what would happen? How would that impact the heavyweight division? What would it mean for the likes of Anthony Joshua, Daniel Dubois? Crucially, what would it mean for an Alexander Usyk fight? Because, listen, it's not that we can speculate. Turki Al-Sheikh has pretty much admitted it, that he wants to see Daniel Dubois versus Alexander Usyk too. And if we've seen that fight, providing Alexander doesn't run into any bother with some of his other mandatories, because bear in mind he's got 3 of the 4 sanctioned bodies titles, you might run into a spot of bother with mandatories. I think it's unlikely considering that the WBO, I don't think, have any interim champion now. They won't after Parker vacates it come fight night. The IBF, that's a final eliminator. And I think with Bacoli, there's a lot. I think that might be the IBF eliminator. I'm not sure. I think Zhang versus Caballero's WBC. But they probably won't call these mandatories for a while. So Usyk seems to be in an okay place, right? So with that being said, Turkey wants to do Dubois Usyk 2 for undisputed again, which would be big. Now, if Daniel Dubois loses, well then we got to ask the question. Some people would say, oh, will Turkey not just do Joseph Parker versus Alexander Usyk? Well, yeah, he could do that, and maybe that's what he'll look to do, maybe not, because I think with Turkey is also a businessman. And he probably, because we've seen this before with Turkey. I'll give you an example. When Daniel Dubois was getting ready to fight Filip Hrgovic, and Wilder was getting ready to fight Zhang, you could tell by the way Turkey was speaking that his preference was Wilder to beat Zhang. Now you got to bear in mind, at the time we didn't know it would have a world title eventually. You'd be elevated in a couple of weeks. But Dubois versus Hrgovic was for an interim title at the time. It was a couple of weeks before Usyk made them vacate and made them full champion. So it was kind of known that, all right, the winner of that fight will likely get elevated. So if they fight Joshua, it'd be for a world title. Turkey was still, no, I want the Wilder fight. And you could tell he was hoping Wilder beat Zhilei Zhang. When he didn't, then he made, obviously, Joshua versus Dubois. He probably would have rather it seen Wilder versus Joshua, no title on the line, just because it was such a big fight. So with Usyk and Dubois, it does throw a spanner in the works. Would he, no disrespect to Joseph Parker, but would he look at Joseph Parker versus Usyk and think, oh yeah, Riyadh season, mega blockbuster, let's do that. Undisputed, you've that caveat, but I doubt it very much. I think they would look to push for the Dubois rematch, which this is a voluntary defence, so there would be a rematch clause in place. I don't mind that. I certainly don't mind it when it's a voluntary, standard practice. If this was a mandatory defence, different story. But I don't mind this having a rematch in place. But then you got to ask the question, what does that then mean for Alexander Usyk? Because Usyk does seem keen on carrying on his career, but if he's looking... With Usyk, you get the impression that he is not best pleased, to say the least, with Daniel Dubois. Certainly not with the way he handled himself in the subsequent post-fight interview he had with Tyson Fury, where Daniel Dubois just bombarded into it, grabbed the mic, Usyk, I want you. When Usyk was talking about, missing his kids, jiu-jitsu or karate or martial art, he was talking about that. Usyk didn't appear to take too kindly to that. When he was shown that picture of the British heavyweights he's already beaten, he said, I don't like this picture. AJ's my friend, Chisora's my friend, Bellew's my friend, Tyson Fury. Bear in mind a lot of the things Tyson Fury said. He still said, no, he could still be my friend, but Dubois, no. That was a resounding no. Not best pleased with Daniel Dubois, to say the least. So Alexander Usyk seems like he wants to go in there one more time. I'm not going to say to right any wrongs, because there was no wrongs by Alexander Usyk first time around. He was hit low, simple as. So there's no wrongs to right, but I think he just wants to go in there, 2-time undisputed at heavyweight, and anyone saying, oh, but Usyk, but at least that way he can just, and again, I'm not one of those people, but he can just say, right, it's done, line in the sand drawn. Would he wait? Because he'd probably have to wait it out then. Would he be willing to wait it out? Bear in mind, he's just turned 38 years old. This is likely the last year of his professional career. I'd say highly likely the last year of his professional career. I don't think he'd be one to just sit around and wait until, because say they fight in February, say Parker wins, close decision, or potentially stops Dubois, and they rematch then in October. Well, the winner of that fight, they're not going to just jump straight into it. It'll probably be February, March of 26 before they, you know what I mean? So by then he's 39, it's not going to work that way. So if Parker wins, it could have serious implications for the heavyweight division. It could mean then that maybe Usyk does decide, well, look, I was holding out for the Dubois fight. If I'm not going to get that, no offense, Joseph Parker, but, I'm going to call it quits. And then belts get fragmented. So a lot is on the line if Joseph Parker wins this fight. An awful lot. I think with Dubois, you can speculate what he'll do next, this, that, and the other, but if he wins, he's not obligated to rematch Joseph Parker. Anthony Joshua may be able to invoke those rematch clauses, or that rematch clause, but I suspect Turkey would just say, nah, forget about that. It is Dubois versus Usyk. And if Tyson Fury, who is retired, decides to come out of retirement, suggesting he ever really was, but you know what I mean, then I suspect we'd see Joshua versus Fury and Dubois versus Usyk. It's very simple. There's really no need to say what if Dubois wins. We kind of already know what will happen. But with Parker, you're opening up a can of worms there. So that's what I think will happen. I think it'll have major implications for the heavyweight division if Joseph Parker wins. I really do. Likelihood is he'll get a Dubois rematch. Joshua might try and jump the queue, but likelihood is he'll get a rematch with Daniel Dubois. But what would that mean for Alexander Usyk? Doesn't have any current mandatories. By the time he gets rid of maybe one of his mandatories, more miles on the clock, another training camp, not getting any younger. So, yeah, could be a case of, listen, I think if Parker wins, then that might be just Usyk saying, right, see you later, I'm done. Because I don't think Turkey would make the Dubois-Usyk rematch if Dubois is coming in off a loss, especially the manner of the loss. So that's my thoughts on that. Let me know yours in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed the video, people. Smash the like button if you could. Hit subscribe, of course, if you haven't already. Me and Ade filming tomorrow. Hope yous are going to enjoy it. Oh, man, when we and him film, it's always good. I'm looking forward to it, man. It's been a while. Looking forward to it. I can't wait. Can't wait to see what we're going to be talking about. And, yeah, man, it's going to be a good day tomorrow. It's going to be a good day. I will have Morel versus Benavidez out tomorrow at some point. So stay tuned for that. But until then, people, peace.